The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one. About God's love for us. And now for an amazing story. Inspired by the book of John, chapter 3. Verse 16.
The Bible is full of words of wisdom that encourage us to love God, love others, and love life. Now, sometimes Jesus told stories to help people understand the power of God's truth in their life, and that's what stories can do for you. The book of John was written by one of Jesus' closest friends who traveled with him for nearly 3 years. In chapter 3, John tells an amazing story about a religious leader whose whole life was based on following rules. When he met with Jesus, his world was flipped when he heard what Jesus had to say. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. Anyone who believes in him will not die but will have eternal life. So let's see how that truth might play out in someone's life today. Lee loved the feeling of the wind in her face as she sped down the mountain on her bicycle. Now, her mom, Julia, had offered to drive her to school when they moved into the house on the edge of town that summer.
It's only a few miles.
You still have to come back up the mountain at the end of the day. It's true that Lee did end up walking her bike back up the mountain many afternoons.
But I get to see everyone that way.
She waved at Mr. Pack, whose garden and greenhouse took up the entire front yard.
You decorated the greenhouse with holly.
Yes. You would like some tomatoes to take home?
Fresh tomatoes in December? Sure thing.
Next, she passed the Rudolph home, where Jen was usually trying to get her 5 kids out of the minivan after school.
Hey, let me hold the baby while you get everyone out. Thank you. I need at least 5 extra hands here.
Then there was Eric Sutton, who had been putting up new Christmas decorations every single day since Thanksgiving.
I hope the electrical grid can handle all that.
Well, we'll all know if it can't, right?
But there was one person who never waved, never spoke to Lee. Maeve Simpson lived in the house just across the road from the Suttons in a neat home with a wide front porch. She often sat there, now bundled against the cold.
Hey there! Merry Christmas!
Maeve would simply look away or get up and stalk back into her house.
Why does she do that?
All the neighbors had an opinion.
She just needs to loosen up and have some fun.
I think she needs something to do.
She has lived very long. Her soul is all dried up, like last year's corn stalks.
Lee considered her silent neighbor as she and her mom made cookies that evening.
It's just rude the way she ignores people like that.
You don't know what's going on inside of her. Everyone has a story.
Yeah, but not everyone has an attitude about it. Hey, do we have a holly cookie cutter?
Right here. You know, there's only one person who knows Maeve's whole story and what she really needs.
Oh, you mean God.
When God gave us his Son, it was a gift for each one of us. To meet our greatest need, God so loved the world. Lee nodded and pressed out another holly leaf. She'd known the familiar verse since she was a little kid.
God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. And anyone who believes in him will not die, but will have eternal life.
That's right.
So, I should just go tell her that?
Do you think she'd listen to you right now?
I don't know. Probably not.
We listen to the people we know care about us.
Oh.
As Lee frosted cookies and stuck on cinnamon red hots for holly berries, she thought hard.
Can I have a dozen of these?
You're gonna eat that many cookies?
I could, but I'm not.
Lee grinned as she shared her idea with her mom. Now, the next morning, when she was leaving for school, Lee spotted Maeve on her front porch, and she stopped at the mailbox and waved, said hello, but the older lady just stood up and walked back inside the house.
Oh boy.
Lee took a festive tin of cookies out of her bag and trotted up the front steps and left them on the porch.
She's looking through the blinds.
The next morning, Maeve's front porch was empty again, but Lee stopped anyway, and she left the wreath that she had made out of fir tree scraps right by her front door.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly.
The following morning, Maeve's porch was empty once again, but the wreath was proudly hanging on her front door.
Yes!
On the fourth morning, Lee left for school early. She carefully fit a thermos full of hot cocoa into her bike carrier, and as she looked up, she saw Maeve was on her front porch.
Hey there!
Maeve stood. Lee could sense her hesitation.
Wait, stop. I don't want to leave this on the porch.
Lee hopped off her bike and grabbed her thermos.
Hot cocoa. I don't want it to get cold.
Lee handed the thermos to Maeve.
From scratch, not the packet kind.
Maeve nodded briefly, and Lee turned to go. But as she reached her bike,
Wait,
Lee paused, surprised.
there's a lot here. Why don't you come in, warm up for a moment?
Well, sure.
Inside, Lee was surprised when Maeve offered her sweetbread to go with her hot cocoa.
This is amazing. Where did you get it?
Stolen. I baked it. I miss having people to bake for.
We're having a Christmas party for everyone on the street. You could definitely bring this.
I don't know. People, they talk about me.
They're only curious. Really. Please come.
Well, maybe.
Lee smiled. If Maeve came to the party, that would be a start. And if people were kind and show they cared, then she would begin to see God's love in action. And she would discover God's most amazing gift.